Hi, my name is Lisa Robinwood and I am the founder of Grip Corporate Coaching. Today I want to talk about having a conversation. I feel like I talk about conversations and how important it is to have them all the time. But actually what I don't do is talk about actually how to have them effectively. It seems simple and perhaps sometimes I oversimplify it, but is it as simple as I make out or that I think it is? I think the answer is probably yes and no, because I think it all depends on who you are, your skill sets, your experience, and your natural capabilities. Through my coaching journey, I have spent a lot of time really refining my ability to converse with others and really digging deep and connecting with what having an impactful, meaningful conversation is. And this at times has been challenging for me because I love to talk. What I'm not always that good at times, and what I've had to learn to be better at, is listening. So when we talk about having a meaningful, impactful conversation, how do we do it? I think people have got to recognise that having a meaningful conversation is not the same as just talking. It's so much more than that. And I'm going to break it down in terms of what I think it consists of. So I think step one has got to be that you make the time to do it. And I think in any part of our lives, whether it's in our own time or at work, this is the biggest challenge. It's actually prioritising time to have a really qualitative conversation. So make the time, and make the time not just physically but mentally as well. I always found booking time out in my diary for people, making sure there was time either side so that I could both prepare for that conversation, clear my mind, focus in on that individual, and rid my brain of any other conflicting thoughts, whether it be about my previous meeting, an action that I needed to do, a deadline I had to meet. Just having that time before that session with that person enabled me to clear my mind and ensure that I was fully present in the moment. Equally, having the time afterwards gave me that opportunity to reflect and digest what had occurred, and enabled me to then ensure that if there were any actions I needed to take, whether that to be to support the person or whether it was learnings on my behalf around what I could have done differently or better, then I'd given it to myself to do that. I think being genuinely curious, and I talk about curiosity a lot when it comes to authentic leadership. Being genuinely curious means that for me that you are authentically, genuinely trying to find out. You want to understand, you want to learn, and you do so in a fully committed way. That requires asking questions that are relevant, that demonstrate that you have listened, that demonstrate that you're, really asking questions that ultimately are trying to seek to understand, not just questions that are for your own gain or because you think that would be interesting to know for yourself. Listening, like truly listening. As I said, this is something that I've been working on and refining for many years, and something I'm always very conscious about doing better. Like truly focusing on the individual, listening to the words that they're saying, processing the words that they're saying, connecting with what they mean, and without interruption. So if you're going to ask a question, wait to listen to the response. Don't interrupt. Don't assume you know. Don't try and fill in the gap with your own thoughts, your own ideas, or trying to relate in a way where you try and answer the question for that person. That can be so demotivating and disempowering as well. And I know often it's done with the best intention because it's about relating, but actually sometimes that's just not that helpful. And I think it's just enabling that person to reply and giving them that space to explore even their own answers. Watching and observing everything that person is giving you. So much of what we are thinking and feeling is translated through our body language. So non-verbal cues, our arms crossed, our eyes wandering and going down. What is the person's face doing? Do they look happy? Do they look sad? And being able to interpret that and essentially intuitively use that in your approach with that individual. I think the way in which you approach a conversation is important, and what you're holding in your frame of mind before you arrive to that conversation. What do you think about that person? Are you holding open, positive, non-judgmental thoughts? Because if you aren't, that will affect how you show up. It will affect how you behave in that conversation, both in terms of your focus, your attention, your authentic self in that conversation. And all of that will impact what you receive from that individual and how much they choose to open up to you. That's my thoughts on having a really impactful, meaningful conversation. As I said, this is something I've worked on hugely in myself to improve on, so that I really am there in full mind as well as body when I meet with people, and that I genuinely support connecting with them fully. I'd love to know your thoughts and whether you have any tips or suggestions, or if you have any questions at all about this and would like to learn more about techniques to improve your conversation skills. Give me a shout at lisa@gripcoaching.co.uk or visit my website www.gripcoaching.co.uk to find out more.